My name is Richard Grosso. I'm going to review the Steamfitters Local 602 math test for the placement test. We're going to go through all the styles of problems that you guys will see on the practice test and the actual placement test. So we're going to go through each and every one step by step, and I will go through on how to solve and what to look for, and hopefully that'll be good enough for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and start. So the first style of problem will be a standard addition problem. Okay, so you have 375 plus 948 plus 22 plus 659. Now, they won't all be written out vertical. Sometimes they'll be horizontal. You just have to remember that everything lines up starting with right to left, okay? So everything will line up on the right side. So 5 plus 8 plus 2 plus 9 equals 24. All right, drop the 4, carry the 2 over. So then it's 7 plus 4 plus 2 plus 5. Don't forget to add the 2, okay? So that's going to give you 20. Now, one thing that I see a lot of, and don't forget, is once you use the carryover, once you've used it, I like to go ahead and just cross it out so you don't accidentally make a mistake and use it again, okay? So go ahead and cross that out so you're done with it. Then you go ahead, 3 plus 9 plus 6 plus 2 gives you 20. All right. So the one thing on here, so your answer is 2004. The one thing, and I'm not sure if because it's multiple choice, but the one thing just to make sure on everything is if they have an answer where just 2004 and then one with 2004 with a comma, choose the one with the comma, okay? I'm not sure if they're just gonna have 2004, one with or without commas, but just if you see one with the comma in it, that's the one you're gonna choose. But remember, you start at the right, it's every 3 places to the left, all right, is where you get the comma, right? So start at the right, move 3 places to the left, that's your comma, all right? So that's addition of whole numbers. Next. Oh, gotta get rid of this. All right, so we have 658 minus 395. Once again, they're not all going to be vertical. It might be horizontal, left to right. Remember, everything starts at the right, 8 and the 5, and then you just line them up that way. So 8 minus 5 gives you 3. Now, 5 minus 9, we're going to have to borrow, okay? We will not have a negative number here. So 5 minus 9 does not work. So that means we're going to have to borrow from the 6. So when we borrow from the 6, all right, so let's see here. Let's solve it all the way out that way. All right, so we had to borrow from the 6. That turns into a 5, okay? We borrowed 1, so that's the equivalent of 10. So that's where the 15 came from. You added 10 to the 5. So that gives us 15. 15 minus 9 is 6, okay? So that's done now. So that leaves us 5 minus 3. Do not forget, when you borrow, write the new value right above it, okay? In this case, there wasn't enough room for the software, so they put the 5 next to it. But write the new value right above it as soon as you borrow from it so you do not forget, and then instead of it being 2, you guys accidentally put 3, okay? So 5 minus 3 equals 2. So now we're done with this one. So the answer is 263. All right, so that's your subtraction of whole numbers. Multiplication of decimals. Do not move the decimal. Count the number of decimal places in each number. Add up the total number of decimal places. Count off this number in the product and put the decimal there. All right, so this is just a generic kind of step-by-step for a multiplication of decimals, but we're going to show you in the next slide how this is done, okay? Once again, not all problems will be written out vertical. They might be horizontal. So what the previous slide was stating was you have to line up the decimals, okay? With multiplication of decimals, you don't have to line up the decimals in multiplications, okay? You're gonna solve it out like a normal problem, okay? If this was addition of and subtraction of decimals, we would line them up. In multiplication of decimals, you don't have to line up the decimals, okay? You're gonna solve it out as a normal multiplication problem, and then at the very end, you're going to move the decimals by counting the decimal places, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and do this. 8 times 2 is 16, we carry the 1. 2 times 2 plus 1 gives us 5. Move over, like once again, you would cross out the 1 at this case, just so you don't get confused and accidentally use it again. So 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1 over. So it's 3 times 2 plus 1 gives us 7. All right. So now we're done with, see, okay, so they cross them out. So they did it at the very end. So I suggest doing it as you go. As soon as you use it, cross it out just in case. All right, so now we're done with the 2. So anybody knows, once you go ahead and start another line of multiplication, you indent. It's 0 here, okay? Right here underneath is 6, it's a 0. So 8 times 9 is 72, all right? So you can see they carried the 2. So 9 times 2 plus 7 is 25. Now 9 times 7 plus 2 gives us 65. 9 times 3 plus 6 gives us 33. So now the 7,456 and 33,552. This is an addition problem now, okay? So now you just add up these two numbers. 6 plus 0, 6. 5 plus 2, 7. 4 plus 5 is 9. 7 plus 5 is 12. All right? So don't mind the decimal point yet. So you carry the 1 over. 1 plus 3 is 4. And 3 plus 0 is 3. So now you go back to the original problem. Now you count the places to make this a whole number. So 37.28, we would have to move this decimal place to the right 2 places to make this a whole value. Same thing with the 92. We would have to move it 2 places to the right to make it a whole value. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you come down here, the decimal would start right here at the end of the, so this is where this is a whole number. So it would start here. So we need to go 4 places to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where the decimal value would go, right then and there. So the answer is 34.2976. All right. So with multiplication of decimals, you do not have to line it up. You treat it just like a normal multiplication problem in the beginning. Then at the very end, you count the number of places it would take to make that number a whole number, right? To remove the decimal places from it. Then you would go down to your final answer, start at the right, because this is where all whole value numbers decimal places start. And then count to the left, 4 places in this case, and place the decimal point. So the answer is 34.2976. Division of decimals. What I tell everybody to do is right off Jump Street is just take that decimal, bring it straight up. All right, that's the first thing I do. So you bring that straight up. So 220 goes into 2 how many times? 0. 220 goes into 24 how many times? 0. 220 goes into 242 one time. So now you would write the 220 underneath the 242, and that is subtraction. So you go ahead and subtract that out. So 242 minus 220 gives you 22. Now we bring down the 5. 220 goes into 225 one time. Once again, underneath the 225, you're going to put 220. Subtract that. That gives you 5. Bring down the 0. 220 goes into 50 0 times. Bring down the other 0. 220 goes into 500 2 times. So 2 times 220 is 440. That is it, because there is no more whole value, no more numbers underneath of your division bracket. So this is where we are going to stop. So then you would already have your decimal point up there, but if you did not, you'd bring this decimal point straight up. You don't have to do any counting. You bring that decimal point straight up. All right, the 500 minus 440, you don't have to solve it out because this is the last value underneath the division bracket, okay? If there was another 0, you would solve this out to 60, drop down another 0 to 600, and then you would go 220 goes into 660, however many times, okay? 600, how many times? But there is no more. This is only 2 zeros, so we stop here once we get that value here, the 2. So 11.02 is my answer. Division of feet and inches. Okay, so what you're going to do is go 8 goes into 34 how many times? 4. 8 times 4 gives me 32. Once again, this is subtraction, so 34 minus 32 gives me 2 feet, okay? You have to be very conscious of this is the foot increments, okay? Now, you have notations for values. So this is 34 feet minus 32 feet equals 2 feet, okay? So do not forget that when you're subtracting this, because we're dealing with feet now, your answer is in feet. Now, you go ahead and bring down the 8. But what you have to do now is convert the 2'8" to inches, okay? Because we found out our whole feet already, which is 4. 8 goes into 34 feet, 8 inches 4 times. So that's 4 feet. So 2 times 12, because there's 12 inches in a foot, gives us 24. Plus 8 gives us 32. So 2'8" is equivalent to 32 inches. So now 8 goes into 32 how many times? 4, which is 32, which equals 0. So when we solved in inches, my answer is inches. So 4 foot 4 inches is your answer. So if you went and did this back in reverse, 8 times 4 foot 4 in inches, or converted it, it would come out to the inch equivalent to 34 foot 8 inches. All right, so 4 foot 4. You solve them for feet first. You got your foot answer, which gives us 2'8". Now we're solving for inches. So now you have to convert the foot and inches to whole inches. Then take your 8 divided by your inches, gives us 4. The answer was 0. Divisions of gallons and quarts. Kind of the same thing we had on the last one. Up here in the top right corner, it tells us 1 gallon is equivalent to 4 quarts. So what we do here, 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. That is subtraction. 10 minus 9 is 1 gallon. Bring down the quarts. We already figured out our gallons here, okay? So now we need to convert this gallons and the quarts strictly to quarts. So up here it says 1 gallon is equivalent to 4 quarts. So this is 4 plus 11. So 4 quarts plus 11 quarts gives us 15 quarts. 3 divided by 3 goes into 15 5 times. It's 15 quarts. Leaves you with 0. So this right here, you guys are probably looking at it and saying, well, 5 quarts, 4 quarts equal a gallon. So if we were to 4 gallons here, so this would be really 4 gallons and 1 quart, okay? If you see both answers on the test, the answer is 4 gallons, 1 quart. But if it's just, they don't have that and it's 3 gallons, 5 quarts, this is your answer, okay? Look for this answer. And then, like you said, because this is 5 quarts, obviously 4 quarts is a gallon, so you can make this 4 gallons and 1 quart. So if that answer is on the test, it's 4 gallons, 1 quart. If that answer is not on the test and it shows this, even though you could break this 5 quarts down a little bit farther, this would be your answer, okay? So look for both of them, but if it's just showing 3 gallons, 5 quarts, that's it on the answers, circle that one. But if there's an answer that says 4 gallons, 1 quart, that's your answer. Word problem. At $8.07 per hour, how much money will you earn in 40 hours? All right. This is, everybody knows pretty much how to do this one because this is how you know what you're going to make a week, right? So 7 times 0, 0, 0 times 0, 0, 8 times 0, 0. Now we're done with this 0 next to the 4. So cross that out. We have the indent. 7 times 4 is 28. 0 times 4 is 0 plus 2. 8 times 4 is 32. Now this is addition. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 8 is 8. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 and 3. Now, we go back up to the beginning problem. So there's only 1 decimal point in this problem, okay? And that's on the $8.07. So we go up here to the decimal place. How many places do I need to move this to the right to make that a whole value? So it's 1, 2. Come down here to the right of the 0, and I move over 1, 2. I put the decimal place. So the answer is 322.80. So you're making $322.80 a week at $8.07 an hour. All right. 1 meter is equal to 3.28 feet. How many feet are there in 30 meters? So you're going to take 3.28 feet and you're going to times that by 30 meters. Okay, that was the question. It tells you 1 meter is equal to 328 feet, which we have right here. And how many feet are there in 30 meters? So that's where we got the 30. So we go 8 times 0 gives us 0. 2 times 0 gives me 0. And 3 times 0, once again, gives me 0. We indent now. 8 times 3 is 24. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. This is where I would go ahead and cross out the 2 because we're done with it. 3 times 3 is 9. So now we go ahead and add that. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4. 8 plus 0 is 8. And 9 plus 0 is 9. Once again, you go up to the original problem. We only have one decimal place in here, one decimal in this equation, right? And that's in the 3.28. So we go to the decimal. How many places do we need to move this to the right to make it a whole value? 1, 2. We go down here to the right of 0, and we go to the left, 2 decimal places, 1, 2. And we place it between the 8 and the 4. So my answer is 98.4 feet are in 30 meters. So now we have another word problem. It says if 1 kilometer is equal to 0.6 miles, how many kilometers would you have traveled if going 42 miles? So we have 42 miles in our product, and where our divisor is the 0.6. Now, you can never divide with by a decimal, okay? So what we have to do here is take the decimal point right here beside to the left of the 6. We need to turn this 0.6 into a whole value. So we need to turn it into 6. So we need to take this decimal place point and move it to the right one spot. But whatever we do on the outside of the division bracket, we must do to the inside. So we move the decimal from the left to the right one spot. We also have to do that to the point next to the 2 and the 42. We have to move that to the right one spot. And that turns, so our new problem is 420 divided by 6, okay? You take whatever your divisor is, turn that into a whole value. However many places you move that decimal place to the right, you must do the exact same in your product, in your underneath the division bracket, okay? You must move that to the right. However many places. In this case, it's only one place. So our new problem is 420 divided by 6. So you go ahead and solve it out. 6 goes into 4, 0 times. 6 goes into 42. 7 times. 7 times 6 is 42. So they didn't do it here. Hold on a second. So this would be a minus 42. So this gives us a 0. Now, this is where a lot of people mess up on this, okay? Because this turned out to a 0. They would just stop and give an answer of 7, okay? No, we still have a whole value underneath here, right? The 0. That is still a problem, okay? So just because we got an answer of 0 here doesn't mean the problem's over. We still have a whole nother problem to solve. So you drop the 0 down. So 6 goes into 0 times. A lot of people forget 0 is an answer, okay? It just, for some reason, and when it comes to division, in this case, in this instance, that people forget that 0 is an answer, okay? So we did 7 times 6 gave us 42, so 42 minus 42 equals 0. But we still have a 0 underneath the division bracket, so we bring that down, 0. So 6 goes into 0 times. So that's where we got the answer of 70, okay? Do not forget that. No matter what this number is to the right, even if this was a 1 right here, this 0 was a 1, we brought a 1 down, 6 goes into 1 0 times, all right? And we would just keep going. So the answer is 70 in this case. A British thermal unit, BTU, is the amount of heat required to raise 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. How many BTUs would be required to raise 45 pounds of water 18 degrees Fahrenheit? So they already set this problem up for you, okay? The formula is pounds times your delta T, so your change in temperature, okay? So they already gave you 45 pounds of water, and they already gave you what they wanted to raise. Your delta T is 18. So all you have to do is go 45 times 18. 5 times 8 gives you 40. 4 times 8 plus 4. 36, cross out the 4. Now we got an indent. 5 times 1 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. You add them. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry the 1 over. 4 plus 3 plus 1 is 8. So your answer is 810 BTUs. One thing they didn't do on this was did not cross out the 4 as soon as you were done with it. So like I said, when you guys are taking the test or practicing on this, cross it out as soon as you used it. That way you don't take a chance of making that mistake and using it again. A column of water is 2.31 feet high, exerts a pressure of 1 pound per square inch. How much pressure does a column of water 47 feet high exert? All right. So 47 feet goes inside the division bracket, and your 2.31 foot high for your pressure coefficient goes outside as your divisor. We just did the problem. Excuse me. You cannot divide with a decimal. So in this case, we have 2.31 right here. We have to move the decimal 2 places to the right to make this a whole value. All right. So we move it over all the way to the right. So that gives us a value of now 231. You cross that out, start a new problem. What we do to the outside, we must also do to the inside. So you take the 47, now turns into 4,700, okay? Because we had to move the decimal place 2 places to the right to make that 231 a whole value. You have to do the exact same to the inside of the bracket. So we turn the 47 into 4,700. Go ahead and raise that decimal place up. So now it's 4,700 divided by 231, okay? 231 goes into 4 0 times. 231 goes into 47 0 times. 231 goes into 470 2 times. All right. So the 231 times 2 oh. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get that taken care of. So 231 times 2 is 462. Let me get my annotate right here, which is minus 462. All right. So this 0, 1. Sorry, I messed that up. We gotta cross this out, make this a 6. Borrowed the 1. This turns into an 8. 6 minus 6 is 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. All right. So we bring down the 0, which is 80. 2.31. 231 goes into 80 0 times. So now we bring down, we add a 0. So bear with me, I'm trying to get this. So this is a 0, we bring that down. So 231 goes into 800 3 times, which is minus 693. So you go ahead and subtract that. So you get 800 minus 693 gives you 107. We drop down another 0. So 231 goes into 1,070 4 times, which gives you 924. So that gives you 146. All right, so they had it stopping at the second decimal place. All right, so the answer is 20.34. Sorry for that, guys. Trying to see what was put onto the PowerPoint. So 231 went into 472 times, gave us 462. That leaves us with an 8. We dropped down the 0. 231 went into 80, 0 times. Dropped another 0. 231 went into 800, 3 times, give us 693, which left us with 107. We dropped a 0, brought that down. So it was 1,070 divided by 231. They gave us 4, and they had to stop at the second decimal place. All right, so a 47-foot high water of column of water exerts 20.34 psi. Clear that. All right, so what is the circumference of the circle? So the rule of thumb here is, let me get my cursor up. So it's pi times your diameter, okay? So pi times your diameter, they gave you what pi is 3.14 is what they're gonna want you to use on this, okay? So pi times your diameter equals your circumference. So we have a radius here of 24. So the diameter is the rest of this over here, okay? So you take 24, you can add it again, or you can times it by 2. So let me see if they have it set up this way. This one. There you go. So I normally just do 24, whatever the radius, times 2. So 24 times 2 gives us 48. All right. So 48 is our diameter, okay, from edge to edge of the circle instead of just half, which is a radius. So you take pi times your diameter, which is 48. So 3.14 times 48. You solve it out for as a multiplication of decimals. It gives you 150.72 is the circumference of this circle of a diameter of 48 or a radius of 24. All right, it says, on this one, it said, what is the radius? What is the area of the circle? So it gives you the problem right here. It says area equals the radius squared times pi. So the radius in figure 1, which was on the one we just did right here, that's where they got the 24, because you'll have this on the test. They'll have one figure shown, it'll be called figure 1, and then they'll have like 2 to 3 problems that deal with that figure, okay? So just, you might have to flip back and forth a little bit, but that's where that 24 was. All right, so you won't have this problem set up on your test, okay? It'll just say, what is the area of figure 1? And it'll have this formula right here. You got to flip back, find the radius, which was on figure 1, which is right here, it's 24. Then come back to this problem, fill that in. All right, they also gave you what pi was on the previous one, right? Pi equals 3.14. So it gives you all the information you need to solve this one. You just have to plug them in the right area. So it's 3.14 times 24 squared. So what squared is, or raised to the second power, it's not 24 times 2, okay, like we just did, okay, because that would be finding the circumference. This is finding the area. 24 raised to the second power is the same as 24 times itself. So 24 times 24 equals 576, okay? So if you don't have a second power key on your calculator or you don't know how to do it, it's just 24, it's whatever it is times itself. All right, so 24 times 24 is 576. So now it's a multiplication of division. So it's 3.14 times 576 gives you 1,808.64 is the total area in figure 1, okay? So problem 20. It's a word problem. It says using the formula C squared plus A squared plus B squared. What is the length of side C in figure number 2? Figure number 2 is the triangle. It gives you A is equal to 15, B is equal to 20, and they're looking for C. All right, it gives you the problem, and it gives you 2 of the numbers that you need. You just have to plug them in, A and B, into the original problem in the word problem, okay? So the first part was A squared. So we take A equals 15. So it's 15 squared plus B squared, which is 20 squared, equals C squared. So, like we just said, anything raised to the second power is just multiplied by itself. So 15 times 15 is 225. 20 times 20 is 400. Add them together gives you 625. Raised to the second power, like you said, so it's the square root of it, okay? So they're not going, I'm 99.9% positive they're not going to make you do the square root, okay? Because I don't know if you're allowed to use the calculator or not on this, but it is the square root of 625, and that's where you would leave it, okay? So you would look for the answer that, like this, okay? They're not going to make you solve it out, especially if you don't have a calculator. So, and once again, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. It gives you a and b. You plug that into the problem. So 15 raised to the second power plus 20 raised to the second power. It's 22, it's 15 times 15 is 225 plus 20 times 20 is 400. Add them together. Square root of 625. In the circle, figure number 3 is divided into 8 equal parts. What is the angle of the section marked A, figure 3? All right, so hopefully you guys all understand that. So if 0 starts up here, let me get the little marker. This is 0 degrees and also 360 degrees, right? So 0 degrees right here, we go all the way around back to 0, that's 360 degrees, okay? So also we know right angles, right? So we know this is 90 degrees. This is 180. 180 degrees, and this is 270. All right. So if you take 0, what's the half of 0 and 90? So each one of these pies is 45 degrees. So it's saying what is this section right here? Just this angle. The answer is 45. All right, each one of these sections was 45. Because we know 0, 90, half of that is 45. Okay? Says find the value of x in the equation. All right, so the whole goal here is to get x on one side, okay? You need to get x on one side of the equal sign, left or right, okay? I always choose to where I don't have to make this x or the value a negative answer, okay? So I always try to keep whatever you're searching for positive, okay? So I would take the 4, move it to the left, try to get it over here. So like I said, I want to keep the larger value where it is. So I have 4x. In order to get 4x from one side, I have to do the opposite of its value. So positive 4x, to get rid of it, to make that 0, is negative 4x, right? But whatever I do to one side, I must do it to the other side. So that's where this 4x is now negative. So it's 5x minus 4x over here on the left. Do the same thing for the 20. I need to get this off of the left side because I'm trying to get x over here on the left side. I need to get the 20 off of here. So the opposite of positive 20 is to subtract 20, right? Hence why it's 30 minus 20 here now. All right, so the whole goal was to get these exponents all by themselves. And I chose to try to keep it positive, okay? So that's what I did here. So in order to do that, I need to get 4x from the right side to the left, which the opposite of 4x is negative 4x, or subtract 4x, gave me 0, but I had to also do that to the left side now. So that's where the equation 5x minus 4x equals 30 minus 20. 5x minus 4x equals 1x. Now it's equal 30 minus 20, 10. Now, you have 1x here. So 1x is equivalent to just x equals 10. If this was any other value, if this was a 2x, in order to get 2x next, number next to an exponent is multiplication. So in order, the opposite of multiplication is division. So you would do is this. You divide each side by that value. These would cancel out, leaving you with x. 10 divided by 1. So x equals 10. Okay, so if this was a 2 right here, where the 1 is, it'd be 2x divided by over 2. The 2's would cancel out. It would be 10 over 2, and your answer would be 5. X equals 5, okay? So that's how that's solved out right there. All right, we have addition of fractions. We have 6 and 5 over 32 plus 7 and 1/8. So here we need to find the LCD. Here it's going to be 32, okay? So 32 is my LCD. 8 times what gives me 32? 4. So it'd be 8 times 4 gave me 32. Whatever I multiplied the denominator by, I have to multiply the numerator by. So 1 times 4 gives me 4. So that's why we got 4 over 32. Because 32 is my LCD, my lowest common denominator. So we just brought the 5 over 32 to the right. 8 times what makes 32? 4. So 8 times 4 gave me 32. But whatever I do to the denominator, which is the bottom number, I must do to the numerator, which is the top number. So 1 times 4 gives me 4. So that's where you see the 4 and over 32. Add your whole values up. 6 plus 7 is 13. Now you add 5 30-seconds plus 4 30-seconds. Gives us 9 over 32. Is that my LC, my lowest? Yeah, that's simplest form. So 9 over 32, that is the answer. Whoop. So 13 and 9 over 32. That's everything reduced down as far as it can go. So 13 and 9 over 32 is the answer. So we have 9 minus 5 and 5 30-second. So just because there's no fraction here, it's 0 minus 5 30-seconds, which cannot happen, right? It can't have a negative number. So we need to borrow from the whole value. So 19, you're going to cross that out, write the new value immediately above it, which is 18. Now, we have to find out LCD, right? So whatever your denominator is in the fraction that you have here, that is what you're going to make your top fraction now, okay? So 32 over 32. Why do we have 32 in the numerator and the denominator? Okay, so we need to find out LCD, our lowest common denominator. So that's where the bottom 32 came from. But the numerator 32 is because 32 divided by 32 is 1, which that's what we borrowed. Remember, a fraction is just a division problem, okay? So 32 divided by 32 is 1, which that's what we borrowed. So now we have our LCD now, it's 32. So we go ahead and take our whole value, subtract them, 18 minus 5 gives us 13. We got 32 minus 5 gives us 27, and your denominators obviously stay the same. So 13 and 27 over 32. All right, so multiplication of fractions. This is multiplication of mixed numbers. So with this, you cannot multiply this fraction out like it is. You have to take this whole value and basically turn this 4 and 3 over 4 into, and turn that into an improper fraction, okay? So you have to take your whole value 4 times your denominator 4, which is 16, then add your numerator 3, which is 19, and then put it over the current denominator, which is 4. So turns into 19 over 4 times 1 over 2, stays the same. So when you do, you multiply straight across. So that would look like this, just so you'll see it. So it'd be 19 over 4 times 1 over 2. Okay, that's what it's going to look like on your paper. All right, so you got 19 over 4 times 1 over 2. You multiply that straight across. So 9 times 1 gives us 19. 4 times 2 gives us 8. Now, that is an improper fraction. An improper fraction is when your numerator is larger than your denominator. So basically, like we said, a fraction is a division problem. So you take your top value, which is 19. Let me get my. Your 19, your numerator always falls to the right for the division, okay? This is how you're going to turn an improper fraction back into a fraction. So 8 goes into 19 2 times, which is 16, right? Leaves you a remainder of 3. Now, your denominator stays the exact same, okay? Which is 8. That does not change. Your product right here, this 2 is your whole value. This 3, your remainder. Is your numerator. Your answer is 2 3/8. All right. Division of fractions, okay? One thing on this one, tell everybody, this is keep KCF. Keep, change, flip. And you will see that in just a second. So you have 3 over 4 divided by 1 over 4. So that means keep the first fraction. C, change. Opposite, change it from division to multiplication. F for flip. It means you're going to flip your second fraction. So instead of it being 1 over 4, it's going to be 4 over 1. So basically you take your denominator and put it as the numerator. You just flip the fraction up on end, okay? So with that, once again, it's 3/4 times 4/1. Okay, you multiply straight across. It gives us 12/4. That's the numerator is larger than my denominator, so it's an improper fraction. So remember, your numerator always falls to the right in this. So it's 4. So 12 divided by 4, 4 goes into 12. 3 times, which is 12. 0. When your numerator is 0, it means you're not going to have a fraction. So that tells me my answer is just, so 12/4, turn that into a whole value. Answer is 3. All right. All right, addition of decimals. All right, with this one, it's not like multiplication where you just line everything up starting from the right to the left. Addition and subtraction of decimals. You have to line up the decimals, okay? You line up the decimals as you can see here. And then you just go ahead and drop that straight down. Once you line them up, that's where the decimal is going to be placed in your final answer, okay? It's not like multiplication of decimals or anything like that. It's where you count at the end. Nope, this is done right from Jump Street, okay? So if there is a board, like you said, where it was 0.628, and then there was a 5 and 5 on each side, and there's a space, you're filling that in with a 0, okay? 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1, add them together. You keep adding everything together. All right, it's 19.3510. As you can see, the decimal place goes straight down, okay? Addition and subtraction, straight down. Wherever you line up all the decimal places first, you drop that thing straight down into your final answer, okay? There's no counting or no nothing. Line up your decimals on addition and subtraction of decimals, and then you drop it straight down to your final answer. Subtraction of decimals, same thing. You line them up. We have to borrow. Make sure you write the new value above it, which is 8. 15 minus 6 gives you 9. Bring the decimal straight down. All right, so the answer is 331.69. Straight down. Always addition and subtraction of decimals. Line up the decimals, straight down to the answer. All right. So taking a decimal and turning it into a percentage. So 0.25, we have to move the decimal place 2 places to the right. So you bring it over, then makes it 25, a whole value in this instance. That turns it into 25, which takes our percentage to a 25%. So 0.25, turning that into a percentage is 25%, because this is 0.25 of 1, okay? That's what it's based off of. So 1 being a pretty much like 100%. So 0.25, take the decimal 2 places to the right, turn that into a percentage, 25%. All right, taking a percentage and then turning it into a whole value. So we know that the decimal point is to the right of the 5, okay? So we have to go 2 places to the left, just reverting what we just did, all right? So we have the point, the 225, 225. We take that decimal, we move it 2 places to the left, gives us 2.25. That's our answer. All righty. So convert the percentage to a decimal multiplying the two numbers. So with here, it says convert the percentage to a decimal and then multiply the two numbers. So we just did it. So we have to take, in order to go from a percentage to a decimal, we got to take this decimal point and go to the left two spots. All right, so the formula turns out to be 0.0025 times 300 equals 0.750. All right, because remember, we just did it 2 slides ago, or well, 1 slide ago. Go from a percentage to a whole value, you have to go to the left 2 places. If you want to go from a whole number to a percentage, you go to the right 2 spaces. So we need to go from a percentage. It told us right here, convert the percentage to a decimal. So that tells you right there that decimal place needs to go to the left 2 places, which gives us 0.0025, and then multiply the 2 together, which gives us our answer of 0.75. All right, it says find the missing percent. So we have 2 equals blank percent of 50. So we need to find out what percentage of 50 equals 2. So what percentage of 50 equals 2? So you're going to take 2 and you're going to divide, well, you're going to take 50 and divide it by 2. So we go 2 divided by 50. So your problem is going to be set up. It's not in a way, so. So that's what that reads, right? 2 divided by 50. So 2 is inside your division bracket. By 50 is your divisor, which is 50. Is 0.04. All right. So if you do, let me get the notation back up in here. 50 goes into 2 0 times. So you add your decimal, add a 0. 50 goes into 20, 0 times, add another 0. 50 goes into 200, 4 times, which is 200. Subtract them, gives us 0. That's where we got the 0.04 from. Now, we got the 0.04. We have to turn that into a percentage, right? So in order to do that, we have to go from a whole value to a percentage. We have to move that decimal place to the right 2 spots. So we take the decimal, move it to the spot, to the right 2 spots, gives us 4%. So 2 equals 4% of 50. So 4% of 50 is 2. All right, the next one is, what is the interest on 38,925 for 1 year at 5.5% interest? So first thing we got to do is convert 5.5% back to a whole value. So you take the 5.5, which is 5.5, move that decimal to the left 2 places, which gives us 0.055. And then you set up your problem. 38,925 times 0.055. Multiply that out. That gives you 2,140.875. Because then you would go back up and find out what your decimal places were. Because this number right here, the 2,140.875, would not have that decimal place in it yet. It would just be a number, long number right there. So you would go back up into the original problem, find out how many decimal places you would need to move to make it a whole value. So 38,925 is already a whole value, but this 0.055, we would have to move it 3 places to the right to make it a whole value. Come back down to the bottom, we move it over 3 places. That's where we got the decimal in between the 0 and the 8. Turning this into 2,140.875 is how much interest for 1 year if you're paying on 5.5%. All right, the next word problem is using the formula for, Fahrenheit equals, let's see, 9/5 plus 32. What is the Fahrenheit temperature of a liquid with a centigrade temperature of 80 degrees? So basically, this is your conversion. It's going from 80 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit, okay? So 9/5, divide that out, is 1.8. So if you don't want to do fractions and you like decimals better, 9/5 is equivalent to 1.8, right? So what we would do here, so this 9/5 in the original formula backed up to the C, which is your Celsius, that is multiplication, okay? So that's why you have the 1.8 times 80, because the 9/5 backed up to the C is multiplication. So like we did, the 9/5 equals 1.8. So that's, instead of doing fractions, we're just dealing with it in decimals. So remember PEMDAS, okay, your order of operations. So parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, okay? Or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally if you guys remember it that way. So PEMDAS. So parentheses is first, right? We have to do whatever we do in the parentheses first before we do anything else. So parentheses, so you go 1.8 times 80 gives us 144. Then plus 32. So then we could go ahead and complete the rest of the problem. So 80 degrees Celsius equals 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's our answer. All right, the next word problem. Says using the formula A over B equals C over D. Find the value of A when D equals 4, C equals 6, and B equals 8. All right. So they skipped a step here on this. So this was originally A over B. All right. So this is a division problem. The opposite of division is multiplication. Okay. So if you cross cancel it, so A over B times B over 1. That is the opposite of the division. Your B's would cancel here. A over 1 is A. So that's why you're just left A over on the left side. So, but when excuse me, we multiply by B, Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So that's why you have B times C over D. Then you go ahead and you plug those numbers into the formula here, which this is actually, sorry, I forgot to write that. They should have put this here now, and then this should have been a 1 right here. So we multiply by B over 1. You multiply the other side from B over 1, or it's just B, but this helps it to understand it a little bit better. So once you go ahead and plug that all in, oh, they did add the 1. So you're going to solve this out just like a normal multiplication of fractions. So there's also, you can also do a cross canceling. It's where you take 8 and 4, what do they have in common? So with this, okay, they're showing it. Let's go ahead and do it. So 8 and 4, what do they have in common? 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. All right, what this allows you to do is to basically do a lot of simplifying in steps. Instead of having a large number that you have to reduce at the end, you're helping doing this like in smaller numbers along the way. So if not, if you didn't want to cross cancel, you could have just did 8 times 6 and then 1 times 4 and then just reduce that improper fraction down a little bit farther. In this case, we just went ahead and cross cancel it. So 2 times 6 is 12. And then 1 times 1 is 1. So it would be 12 over 1. You know, so 12 divided by 1 is 12. Your answer is 12. So if you don't see 12, A equals 12 is just an answer, and you see this 12 over 1, this, click this one. But if you, all right, so just make a look out. If you see A equals 12 and then A equals 12 over 1, it's 12, okay? Because anything divided by 1 is itself, okay? So it's 12. But if they don't have just A equals 12 and you see it set up like this, choose this. All right. The specific weight of an object can be found using the formula A over C equals W. All right, so on this one, they forgot to put here A equals 25, C equals 6.25, and then W equals 3.75, okay? So that would have been, these numbers would be given to you, okay? So then you just plug them into this formula right here. A over C minus W, which is 25 over 6.25 minus 3.75, which gives you 25 over 2.5, which is the division problem, right? So it would look, remember your denominator always falls to the right on division. So it's 2.5 divided by, well, it's 25 divided by 2.5. Remember, you cannot divide by a decimal, so we have to move this one place, decimal place to the right to make this a whole value, right? We cross that out. Now this turns into, this decimal place is right here. We got a 0. We got to move this over right here. So our new value is 250 divided by 25, which 25 goes into 250 10 times, right? All right. So the answer is 10 on this one. So just remember, if you're ever dividing a decimal and your actual divisor is a decimal, you have to make that a whole value, okay? You cannot just divide by a decimal, okay? It does not work. So you have to move whatever you have to do to make that decimal a whole value, do it. But then whatever you have inside your division bracket, you have to also do the exact same thing. Move that decimal, however many decimal places you moved it, to the right, okay? In this case, so that turned the original problem from 25 divided by 2.5 to 250 divided by 25. Hence, that's why the answer is 10, okay? So that's why I wanted to show you up here on the, write it out, just so you saw the, why we got 10. So it wasn't anything crazy. Right, and that is it for the math test review. That it's everything that is going to be on the on your actual exam for the placement test. Okay, so like I said, you'll be able to click this link or however they're going to set it up for you guys. Pause it, go back to it, watch it a bunch of times, make a couple of problems, kind of the same way that you see here, style-wise. Or pick up the practice test. I'm not sure if you can pick it up or go online and get it, but use this as an example, as a study guide to kind of just see how it is. Like you said, it's not saying that you don't know what you're doing or how to do it. It just might just knock off some cobwebs and all that, and make it a little bit, just kind of spark a light so you can remember it a little bit easier when you get to the test and all that good stuff. So this is going to be a good study guide for you guys for pause and stop. Try the problem out. As soon as you see the problem, write it down. Try to solve the problem out before you even see me go through it. And then once the problem goes on, play it and see if you got the right answer. So that's another way of doing it. So I appreciate you guys and all that, and good luck on the test.